I hadn't believed in fate until the night a man with blood on his conscience asked me to dance. It all began like any other workday at Carmelo's, that upscale Italian place where the chandeliers alone cost more than my entire year's rent, and the clientele wore silence like a suit of armor. I'd been working there for 8 months, just long enough to fade into the background, to become invisible. The kind of invisible that lets you hear things you shouldn't. The kind that keeps you safe at least until it doesn't. That October evening, the rain was coming down sideways, turning the city streets into slick, black mirrors reflecting neon and headlights in blurry streaks. I got there early, my hair still a little damp under my ponytail, my uniform pressed but unremarkable. White blouse, black skirt, comfortable shoes that didn't make a sound on the marble floors. Carmelo's wasn't the kind of place where you noticed the waitresses. We were like shadows with trays, silent and efficient. And that was fine with me. Table 7 needs water, Emma. Marco, the floor manager, mumbled as he hurried past, barely giving me a second glance. And keep your head down tonight. VIPs in the private room. VIPs meant money, and money meant tips that I desperately needed. My younger brother's tuition bill was sitting on my kitchen counter like a ticking time bomb, and my mother's medical expenses were piling up faster than I could keep track of. So, I just nodded, filled the crystal pitcher, and headed across the dining room. That's when I felt it. A shift in the atmosphere, a heaviness that made my skin prickle with some kind of instinct I didn't even understand. The main dining room had become quieter than usual. Conversations dropped to hushed tones. Forks froze in midair. Even the sommelier was moving with more caution, his steps slow and deliberate. He kept my eyes down. I'd learned that lesson working there. Never make eye contact with the kind of men who expect the world to bow at their feet. But as I got closer to table 7, my eyes flickered, just for a second, toward the source of that suffocating silence, the private alcove near the back. And him. He was sitting there like a king in exile, perfectly still in the center of the semicircular booth. Dark suit, darker eyes. The kind of face that should be on old Roman coins. Sharp, unforgiving, and carved from something harder than marble. His hair was black and slicked back, showing a jawline that could cut glass. He wasn't the biggest guy in the room, but somehow he took up all the space. For men were flanking him, 2 on each side. They weren't eating or talking, just watching the room with the dead-eyed focus of predators. I quickly looked away and kept walking. Asterisk not your business, Emma. Pour the water. Smile. Disappear. Asterisk I refilled the glasses at table 7. My hand staying steady, thank God. Mumbled something polite and turned to walk away. You! The voice stopped me dead in my tracks. Low, commanding, absolute. It wasn't a question, not a request. It was a summons. Every instinct I had screamed at me to keep walking, to pretend I hadn't heard a thing. But my feet wouldn't move, and my heart was pounding against my ribs. Slowly, so slowly, I turned around. He was looking right at me. Not through me, not past me, but at me. His eyes were the color of midnight right before a storm, and they pinned me in place with the weight of something I couldn't even name. Danger. Curiosity. Hunger. Come here. It wasn't loud. He didn't raise his voice. But the command spread through the restaurant like a shockwave. And suddenly, every single pair of eyes in the room was on me. My mouth went dry. Marco appeared at my side like a ghost, his face pale. Sir, if there's anything her. The man didn't even glance at Marco. Not you. One of the guards shifted, and I caught a glimpse of something metallic under his jacket. Asterisk oh God. Asterisk my legs started moving before my brain caught up, carrying me across the dining room on autopilot. The distance felt endless, each step echoing in my ears like a countdown. When I reached the edge of his table, I stopped, clutching the empty pitcher like it was a lifeline. Up close, he was even more striking. The kind of beautiful that felt dangerous, like staring at the sun for too long. A small scar cut through his left eyebrow, the only imperfection on an otherwise flawless face. What's your name? He asked. His voice was softer now, but just as absolute. Emma. It barely came out as a whisper. Emma, he repeated, slowly, like he was tasting each syllable. Then his eyes moved down, taking in my uniform, my worn-out shoes, the way my hands were shaking around the pitcher. When his eyes met mine again, something flickered in their depths. "You're afraid of me." It wasn't a question. My voice cracked. I swallowed hard. "I don't know who you are." One corner of his mouth turned up, but it wasn't quite a smile. More like the ghost of something that might have been amusement, back before the world made him cruel. "Smart girl," he murmured. Then he stood up. The movement was smooth, controlled, and it brought him close enough that I could smell his cologne. Cedar and smoke and something darker, like gunpowder and rain. He was towering over me, and I had to tilt my head back to keep looking him in the eye. "Do you dance, Emma?" The question caught me so off guard that I blinked. "What? Dance?" He said it like it was the most normal thing in the world, like we weren't standing in a silent restaurant with armed men watching our every move. "Do you know how?" Yes, but..." "Then dance with me." My heart stopped. The restaurant had no music, no dance floor, just the quiet clinking of silverware and the suffocating feeling of 100 people holding their breath. "I'm working," I managed to say. "Not anymore." He held out his hand. It was elegant, scarred across the knuckles and waiting. Everything in me screamed to run, to say no, to remember that men like him, men who could command silence with their presence and wore violence like a second skin, were not the kind of men you said yes to. But when his eyes met mine again, something inside me gave way. Because beneath all that ice and control, I saw it. Loneliness. And before I could stop myself, before I could think about it, I put my hand in his. His fingers closed around mine, warm and firm, and the world seemed to tilt. Then, from somewhere in the shadows, one of his men spoke. "Boss, we have a problem." His jaw tightened, his grip on my hand turned to steel, and when he looked toward the entrance, I followed his gaze and saw 3 men in black suits stepping through the door. Men whose hands were already reaching inside their jackets. The last thing I heard before everything went crazy was his voice, low and deadly in my ear. "Stay close to me, Emma, and whatever happens, don't scream." Time seemed to shatter into tiny pieces. 1 second I was standing in the warm light of Carmelo's, my hand in his. The next, everything exploded into motion. His arm wrapped around my waist like a steel band, yanking me against him as he spun us both behind a marble column near his table. My back hit the stone hard enough to knock the air out of me, but he didn't let go. His body became a wall between me and whatever was coming through that door. "Don't move." The command was like stone, final. I couldn't have moved if I'd wanted to. Fear had turned my legs to lead. The 3 men in black suits walked through the entrance with the calm, deliberate steps of executioners. No one screamed. No one ran. The diners just froze, silverware hanging in the air, as if standing still might make them disappear. They'd done this before, I realized with growing horror. This restaurant, these people, they knew what silence meant when men with guns were around. "Dante Moretti." The voice came from the man in the center, sharp as broken glass. He was older than the others, with silver streaks in his dark hair and a jagged scar running from his temple to his jaw. "You're a hard man to corner, Dante Moretti." The name hit me like a bomb going off in my head. I didn't follow organized crime. I didn't read that part of the newspaper, but even I had heard whispers of that name, always said in hushed tones, always followed by warnings to stay away. The man whose hand I'd just been holding wasn't just dangerous. He was a legend. "Luca." Dante's voice was casual, almost bored, but I could feel the coiled violence in every muscle pressed against me. "You're interrupting my evening." "Your evening?" Luca's laugh was like acid. "You killed my nephew, and you think you get to have evenings? Your nephew was stealing from my shipments. He knew the risk." He was 17. Something flickered across Dante's face, too fast for me to see. He made a man's choice, and now I'm making mine. Luca's hand moved inside his jacket. Everything happened at once. Dante's men exploded into action like release springs. One flipped a table, sending crystal and china flying across the floor. Another pulled out a weapon so smoothly it was like it appeared from nowhere. The third moved toward Luca's group with deadly precision. But Dante didn't move. He stayed right where he was, his body still shielding mine, one hand flat against the column next to my head. Emma. My name on his lips was rough, urgent. When I move, you run straight through the kitchen doors. Don't stop. Don't look back. Understand? I managed a jerky nod, gasping for air. His dark eyes held mine for a split second. Good girl. Then he was gone. He moved like violence itself. Fluid, controlled, devastating. One of Luca's men raised his gun, and Dante was on him before the barrel cleared his jacket, slamming the man's wrist against the wall with a sickening crack. The gun clattered to the floor. Dante's elbow connected with the man's temple, and he crumpled. 2 seconds, maybe less. Run. Someone yelled. I think it was Marco. My legs finally listened, carrying me away from the column. I took 3 steps before the first gunshot ripped through the air. The sound was nothing like it is in the movies. It was sharper, closer, more real, a physical thing that punched through the air and left my ears ringing. I stumbled, my heel catching on broken glass. Strong hands caught me before I fell. One of Dante's men, his face blank, shoved me toward the kitchen. Go! I ran. The kitchen doors burst open under my hands, and suddenly I was in a different kind of chaos. Stainless steel and shouting chefs and the acrid smell of something burning. The staff scattered like birds as I ran through, not stopping until I reached the back exit. The alley was dark and wet, the pavement shining like oil. I pressed my back against the brick wall, my whole body shaking so hard my teeth chattered. Asterisk, what just happened? What did I just star? The back door slammed open. I bit back a scream, my hands flying up to protect myself. But it was him. Dante Moretti stepped into the alley like some kind of avenging angel. His suit jacket was gone, his white shirt torn at the shoulder and stained with blood. Not his, please God, I thought. His hair was falling across his forehead, and there was something wild in his eyes that made him look less like a man and more like the monsters mothers warn their daughters about. He saw me and stopped. For a long moment, we just stared at each other in the rain. Water dripped from the fire escape above us, making a sound like a heartbeat. You're still here. His voice was rough, disbelieving. My voice failed. I tried again. I didn't know where else to go. Something in his face changed, softened a little, just enough for me to see it. He closed the distance between us in 3 steps, his hands coming up to frame my face. His palms were warm against my rain-chilled skin, and his thumbs brushed my cheekbones with a gentleness that didn't fit with anything I'd just seen. Are you hurt? The question was soft, intense. I shook my head, not trusting myself to speak. His eyes moved over me anyway, checking, making sure. When he looked satisfied, some of the tension left his shoulders, but he didn't let go of my face. You should have run farther, he said. I know. You should be terrified of me. I am. His jaw tightened. Then why are you still here, Emma? It was the question I'd been asking myself since the second I took his hand. The question that had no logical answer, no safe response. So I told him the truth. Because when you looked at me in there, I saw something in your eyes, something that looked like what I feel every day. I swallowed hard. Lonely. The word hung between us like a confession. Dante's expression changed, fractured and put back together in a heartbeat. His grip on my face tightened almost without me noticing, and I watched his carefully built control break just enough to let something real and human show through. You don't know what you're saying, he whispered. Maybe not, but I'm not wrong. For a moment, I thought he was going to kiss me. The air between us felt electric, charged with both possibility and danger. Then his phone buzzed. He closed his eyes for a second, and when he opened them again, the vulnerability was gone. Locked away behind walls he'd probably spent years building. He stepped back, letting go of me, and the sudden absence of his warmth felt like being abandoned. I need to get you somewhere safe, he said. His voice was back to being the voice of a man who commanded armies. My men will take care of Luca. What about the restaurant? The people? No one will talk, and no one was hurt. His mouth twisted. Except Luca's men. They knew what they were getting into. He pulled out his phone, typed something fast, and put it away. When he looked at me, his face was blank. A car will be here in 30 seconds. My driver will take you home. Make sure you're safe. And then what? And then I just forget this happened? Forget I ever saw you? The words should have been a relief and easy way out. But instead, they felt like a door slamming shut. What if I don't want to forget? The question came out before I could stop it, and I saw it hit him like a punch. Dante stared at me with something that could have been pain, or anger, or both. You don't know what you're asking for. Then tell me. I can't. A black car pulled into the alley, quiet as a shark. The driver got out, opened the back door, and waited. Dante's hand found the small of my back, guiding me to the car. His touch was gentle, but firm enough that I knew arguing was useless. Go home, Emma, he said quietly. Live your life, and thank whatever God you believe in that our paths crossed tonight instead of some other night. I stopped at the open car door, looking back at him. Rain had started falling again, making the air between us shimmer. Why? I asked. What's different about tonight? His smile was sad. Tonight, I let you walk away. The driver cleared his throat. I got into the car, my body moving on its own while my mind spun. As the door closed and the car drove away, I twisted around to look through the back window. Dante was standing in the alley, the rain soaking through his torn shirt, watching me disappear. And I knew, with a feeling that scared and excited me at the same time, that this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The car turned the corner, and my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, my hands shaking. Unknown number. One message. I already regret letting you go. Asterisk oh, my God. Asterisk my heart stopped, then started again, beating fast. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. That unbelievable mix of brutality and loneliness that shouldn't be possible, but was. I could still feel his hands on my face, like I was something precious, not just a waitress he'd known for 10 minutes. I sat on the fire escape outside my apartment, watching the city wake up in the dark. That text was burning a hole in my phone. I already regret letting you go. I'd written and deleted 17 different replies before I gave up. What could I even say to a man like Dante Moretti? A man who knew violence so well. A man whose eyes had changed something in me. The smart thing to do would be to delete the number, block it, pretend the night before was a dream. But I've never been good at being smart when my heart is involved. By the time I got to campus for my shift at the university library, I was running on coffee and adrenaline. My double life, waitress at night, student and library assistant during the day, usually kept me too busy to think. But not today. I couldn't think about anything else. Emma, you look worn out. Mrs. Chen, the head librarian, looked at me over her glasses with concern. Are you okay? Just a long shift, I said, faking a smile. I'm fine. She didn't look convinced, but she let it go and disappeared into the archives with a stack of books. I sat down behind the desk, happy for the quiet. The library was my escape. Hushed voices, the smell of old books, and the peace of being surrounded by a million stories. I lost myself in the routine. Check-ins, check-outs, helping a student find research for a paper. Normal. Safe. Mine. Then the doors opened, and everything changed. He walked in like he owned the place. No, like he owned the entire city and was letting the university exist there. Dante Moretti, wearing perfect gray pants and a black sweater that probably cost more than my rent. His hair was back, and his face was hidden by sunglasses. My heart stopped. Asterisk no, no, no. He can't be here. This is my world. He doesn't belong here. Asterisk, but he was already walking through the library, and every woman was watching him. 2 men in suits followed him, not the ones from the night before, but just as dangerous. His security, his shadows. I hid behind my computer, pulse racing, praying he was there for some other reason. Then he stopped right in front of my desk. Hello, Emma. His voice was quieter than it had been, but it still made me shiver. Slowly, I looked up. He'd taken off the sunglasses, and those eyes held me. "What are you doing here?" I whispered, aware of people looking at us. "I came to see you. You can't just—" I looked around. Mrs. Chun had come out of the archives and was watching us. "This is where I work." "I know. I also know you're a student English literature with a minor in art history." "Impressive, considering you work 40 hours a week to pay for your brother's tuition and your mother's medical bills." I felt cold. "How do you—" "I make it my business to know things about people who interest me." His face didn't change, but something moved in his eyes. "And you, Emma, interest me very much." The possessiveness in his words should have scared me, but instead, a part of me was happy. "You said to forget you, to live my life." "I did." He looked angry. "I meant it." "Then why are you here?" For the first time, he seemed unsure. He ran a hand through his hair. "Because I've made mistakes, Emma. But letting you walk away without knowing you were okay." He stopped. "That would have been unforgivable." "I'm okay. Your driver made sure of that." "Safe from outside threats, yes. But what about the inside ones?" I frowned. "I don't understand." He leaned closer, his voice soft. "Did you sleep last night? Did you spend the morning wondering if it was real? Did you wonder if I was thinking about you?" My face turned red. "I did." The words were soft. "Because I did. And when I realized I had your number, but you didn't have mine, and that you were wondering if that text was real." He let out his breath. "I couldn't stay away." My hands were shaking on the desk. "You shouldn't be here. This isn't safe." "I know that too." He reached across the desk, his fingers touching mine. "But here I am anyway." The touch sent sparks up my arm. I should pull away. I should tell him to go. I should remember that this man had broken someone's wrist like it was nothing. But instead, I turned my hand over, letting my palm press against his. He gasped. "Emma," he said, my name a warning. "If I stay, if we do this, I can't promise it won't destroy you. Maybe I'm tired of being safe." Something fierce lit up his eyes. "Don't say things you don't mean." "I'm not." The moment stretched out between us, humming. Then Mrs. Chun cleared her throat behind me, and reality came crashing back. Dante pulled his hand away, but his eyes stayed on mine. "Have dinner with me tonight." "I have a shift at Carmelo's." "Not anymore. I bought the restaurant this morning." At my surprised face, he smiled. "I bought the building. Carmelo's is just part of it, but it's the same thing. You don't work there anymore. You can't just—" "I can." "I did." He stood up straight, all business. "You'll get 2 months' pay plus extra for what happened last night. Your loans will be better. Your mother's bills." The word came out sharper than he meant. He stopped, and his perfect control was back in place. "They'll be taken care of." He waited, but I didn't know what to say. So he just nodded and turned and walked away, leaving me with a library full of questions and a heart that didn't know whether to be terrified or to sing. "Okay, here is the requested translation and rewrite." "That's not what I intended." Several students looked up from their books, their attention drawn by the raised voices. I lowered my own, trying to be less conspicuous. "You can't buy me, Dante. I'm not some possession to be acquired." He bristled, his expression shifting, hardening. "I'm not trying to buy you, Emma. I'm trying to protect you." He emphasized the word, a dark intensity in his eyes. "What happened last night, that little visit, that wasn't a one-off. That won't be the last time someone comes after me, tries to get to me." He paused, his gaze piercing. "And now that Luca's men saw you with me, clear as day, you're already on their radar. Do you even begin to understand what that means?" A cold dread washed over me, settling like a stone in the pit of my stomach. He saw the confusion in my eyes, the hesitant fear. "No, you don't, do you? It means your leverage, Emma. A weakness they can exploit to get to me." His hands clenched into fists at his sides, a barely controlled fury radiating from him. "It means if I don't control this situation, you become collateral damage in a war you didn't even ask to be a part of. A war you don't understand. So what am I supposed to do?" Just let you waltz in and completely reorganize my entire life? Just like that? Yes, the absolute certainty in that single, sharp word should have ignited a firestorm of rage within me. Instead, something else flickered beneath the anger. A strange and unfamiliar sensation. Safety. For the first time in months, maybe even years, I felt a fragile sense of security. Maybe, just maybe, someone was offering to shoulder the crushing weight I'd been carrying alone for so long. It was seductive, dangerous, and exactly what I knew I couldn't afford to want, not with everything at stake. "I need time to think," I said finally, the words feeling heavy and inadequate. "You don't have time." He pulled out his phone, thrusting the screen towards me. "This photo was taken an hour ago, Emma." I stared at the image, my blood turning to ice water in my veins. It was me, walking into the library this morning, just like any other day. The photo had been taken from across the street, the angle revealing the use of a telephoto lens. Who took that?" I stammered, the question barely a whisper. "I don't know yet, but someone's watching you, Emma. Someone who knows you matter to me." His voice, though low, was hard, like steel wrapped in silk. "And that makes you the most dangerous thing in my world right now." Before I could even formulate a response, his phone buzzed insistently. He glanced at it, and his entire demeanor shifted, the transformation instantaneous. The protectiveness, the concern, vanished, replaced by something sharp, lethal, and utterly terrifying. "I have to go." He looked at me, and I saw war reflected in his eyes, a storm brewing just beneath the surface. "My driver will be outside when your shift ends. Don't argue with me on this, Emma. Don't refuse. Just get in the car." "Dante, please." The word sounded like it cost him something, a small admission of vulnerability. "Just let me keep you safe, Emma. Just trust me on this." Then he was moving, decisive, purposeful. His security detail, silent and watchful, fell into formation around him as they headed swiftly towards the exit. He paused at the door, turning back one more time. Our eyes met across the length of the library, and I felt that invisible connection between us pull taut, a tangible force. Equal parts promise and threat, binding us together in ways I didn't yet understand. Then he was gone, leaving a vacuum in his wake. I sank heavily into my chair, my legs suddenly unable to support me. Mrs. Chun appeared at my elbow, her expression troubled, etched with concern. "Emma, dear, who was that man?" He seemed very intense. "I don't know, Mrs. Chan," I whispered, the words a genuine reflection of my confusion. It was the truth, in a way. I didn't know who Dante Moretti really was beneath the carefully constructed reputation, the inherent violence, the suffocating control. But God help me, I realized with a jolt. I desperately wanted to find out. My phone buzzed, shattering the silence. Another unknown number. Another message. But this one froze the blood solid in my veins. "Stay away from Dante Moretti or your brother pays the price. You have 24 hours to decide." Attached was a photo of my brother, Jake, taken that morning, standing innocently outside his dorm. Someone was watching him, too. And suddenly, Dante's world wasn't just dangerous, a distant threat. It was already devouring mine, pulling me down into the darkness with irresistible force. I had 23 hours and 47 minutes to make an impossible decision, a choice that would determine the fate of everyone I loved. The library, once a sanctuary, transformed into a cage, the walls closing in on me. Every face became a potential threat, every sound amplified, distorted. The gentle creak of a chair, the whisper of pages turning, the soft footfalls on the carpet sent my heart racing, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. I clutched my phone so tightly my knuckles went white, staring at that photo of my brother until the image burned itself into my retinas. Jake, 20 years old, brilliant, innocent, everything I'd sacrificed for, everything that truly mattered in the world. The threat was stark, unavoidable. Walk away from Dante or watch my brother suffer the consequences of my choices. But walking away wouldn't erase what had already happened. It wouldn't delete me from whatever target list I'd landed on the moment Dante's fingers closed around mine. These people, whoever they were, had already marked me, already weaponized everyone I loved against me. My shift ended in a blur of mechanical movements, check-ins, check-outs, plastering a fake smile on my face for oblivious students while my world crumbled behind my eyes. When 5 o'clock finally arrived, the clock ticking with agonizing slowness, I grabbed my bag and headed for the exit, my mind still spinning, desperately searching for a solution, a way out. The black car was waiting exactly where Dante had said it would be, a silent predator lurking at the curb. His driver stood beside it, the same man from last night. Tall, expressionless, with the kind of stillness that came from years of military training, a coiled readiness just beneath the surface. He opened the door without a word, his eyes cold and assessing. I hesitated on the sidewalk, the rain beginning to fall in soft whispers, a melancholic soundtrack to my despair. Get in the car and you choose Dante. Choose his world, his danger, his dubious protection. Walk away, turn my back, and you choose your brother's safety. Maybe. There were no guarantees, just impossible choices. The driver's eyes met mine, his gaze unwavering. Miss Romano, Mr. Moretti is expecting you. I need to make a call first. He didn't move, didn't flinch. I have orders to deliver you safely to Mr. Moretti. Whether you make that call from here or from the car is your choice, Miss Romano. Translation: I was getting in that car one way or another. There was no escape, no room for negotiation. I slid into the luxurious leather interior, the door closing with an expensive thunk that sounded like finality, a seal on my fate. The driver pulled smoothly into traffic, navigating the streets with practiced precision. I stared at my phone, Jake's photo still glowing on the screen, and made the call I'd been dreading, the words catching in my throat. He answered on the second ring, his voice bright and carefree. What's up? Just hearing his voice, so young, so unburdened by the weight of the world, made my throat tighten with emotion. Hey, how's the biochem exam prep going? Brutal, but I'll survive. Why do you sound so weird? Because someone photographed you this morning and threatened your life. I wanted to scream, because I met a man who makes me feel alive and terrified in equal measure. Because I'm sitting in a mobster's car trying to figure out how to keep you safe. Instead, I forced a lightness into my voice, a brittle facade. Just tired. Long day at work. I lied. Listen, I need you to do something for me. Sure. What's wrong? Emma? Nothing's wrong, Jake. I need you to be extra careful for a while. Keep your apartment locked. Don't walk alone at night. Vary your routine. Silence stretched between us, thick with unspoken fear. Then, Emma, you're scaring me. What happened? Nothing happened. I'm just being paranoid, that's all. You're the least paranoid person I know, he countered, his voice sharpening with worry. Did someone threaten you? Is this about that restaurant you work at? Worked at, past tense. Another life decision made without my consent. Another sacrifice swallowed down. No, I promise. My voice cracked, betraying my carefully constructed calm. I need to know you're safe, Jake. Can you do that for me? Can you promise me you'll be careful? Yeah, of course. I can do that. He paused, a hesitant question in his tone. But if something's really going on, you'd tell me, right? You wouldn't keep it from me? Right. Another lie, piled on top of all the others. I'd spent my entire adult life lying to protect him, shielding him from the harsh realities of our lives. About how tight money was, about how exhausted I was, about how much I'd given up so he could have everything he deserved. What was one more lie in the grand scheme of things? We said goodbye, the words feeling hollow and inadequate, and I ended the call feeling emptier, more isolated than before. The car glided silently through the city, taking turns I didn't recognize, the landscape shifting around me. We were heading away from my familiar neighborhood towards a different part of town, a world of gleaming skyscrapers and anonymous wealth, where buildings had names instead of numbers and security cameras watched from every corner. Where are we going? I asked, my voice barely audible above the soft hum of the engine. The driver's eyes met mine briefly in the rearview mirror, his expression unreadable. "Somewhere safe, Miss Romano." 20 minutes later, we pulled through imposing iron gates into an underground parking structure. The entrance discreet and heavily guarded. The driver escorted me to a private elevator, his hand hovering subtly near his jacket in a way that reminded me he was armed, prepared for any threat. The elevator ascended rapidly, silently. The doors opened directly into a breathtaking penthouse apartment that stole my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city, now glittering with evening lights, a dazzling display of power and ambition. The interior was sleek and modern, dominated by blacks and grays, everything sharp lines and expensive simplicity. Abstract art adorned the walls, pieces that probably cost more than my entire education. And Dante was standing by the windows with a glass of amber liquid in his hand, staring out at the city like a king surveying his kingdom, his silhouette framed against the glittering backdrop. He turned when the elevator doors closed behind me, his movements fluid and graceful. He changed clothes, trading the suit for dark jeans and a black shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms corded with muscle and marked with a network of faint scars, each one a silent testament to his past. His hair was slightly disheveled, and there was a palpable tension in his shoulders that hadn't been there this morning, a coiled energy that made me uneasy. "You came." Relief flickered across his face. "So quick, so subtle. I almost missed it. Did I have a choice?" I asked, the words laced with bitterness and resignation. "You always have a choice, Emma." He set his glass down on a nearby table, the crystal clinking softly, and moved towards me, his gaze intense and unwavering. "That's what makes this so dangerous." I pulled out my phone, holding it out to him, my hand trembling slightly. "Someone's watching my brother, Dante. They sent me a message. They want me to stay away from you." His expression went cold, the warmth vanishing instantly, replaced by a chilling detachment. The kind of cold that could kill, that could freeze you to the bone. He took the phone, studying the message and the photo with terrifying focus. His eyes narrowed, his jaw clenched. "Luca." The name was a curse, spat out with venomous hatred. This is his style. Coward's tactics. Always using others to get what he wants. "Is my brother in danger?" The question came out as a choked whisper, my voice trembling with fear. "Not anymore." He was already dialing a number, his movements swift and decisive. The phone pressed to his ear, he spoke, his voice low but laced with absolute authority, every word a command. "I need a security detail on Jake Romano. 24/7 protection. Rotating shifts. No one gets within 50 feet of him without clearance." He paused, listening for a moment. "I don't care about the manpower shortage. Pull men from the docks if you have to, and find whoever took this photo. I want them in front of me by midnight." He ended the call abruptly and handed my phone back to me, his eyes dark and unreadable. "Your brother will have protection within the hour. Former military, the best I have. He won't even know they're there." The efficiency, the speed with which he'd mobilized his resources, should have comforted me, reassured me. Instead, it highlighted how easily Dante moved through a world I didn't understand, a world where human lives were chess pieces and violence was just another tool in his arsenal, a means to an end. "This is insane," I whispered, the words barely audible, a desperate plea against the madness that was engulfing me. "Yes," he acknowledged, not arguing, not trying to minimize the gravity of the situation. "It is. But it's also reality now, Emma. The moment Luca's men saw you with me, you became a part of this, whether you wanted it or not. There's no going back to the way things were. So what? I'm just supposed to accept that my entire life has been hijacked? That I have no say in what happens next? No." He closed the distance between us, his movements predatory, and suddenly he was there, far too close, his presence overwhelming. I could see the storm raging in his eyes, a turbulent mix of protectiveness, anger, and something else I couldn't quite decipher. "You decide what happens next, Emma. You always have a choice. You can walk away from all of this, I'll still protect you and your brother. Keep you safe from a distance. A shadow watching over you. Or you can stay. Let me explain what you've walked into, show you my world, and make an informed choice about what comes after. Why? The question burst out before I could stop it. An urgent need for understanding. Why do you care so much? You don't know me. You owe me nothing. Something raw, vulnerable, crossed his face. A fleeting glimpse of the man beneath the carefully constructed facade. Because when I looked at you last night, Emma, I saw something I thought I'd lost years ago. Something I didn't think men like me were allowed to have. What? I whispered, breathless. My heart pounding in my chest. Hope. The word was barely audible. A fragile admission. You looked at me and saw a person instead of a monster. Do you have any idea how rare that is, Emma? How long it's been since someone has seen me that way? My heart cracked open. A wave of empathy washing over me. You're not a monster, Dante. Yes, I am, he insisted, his voice rough, self-deprecating. His hand came up, cupping my cheek with devastating gentleness, his thumb tracing the curve of my jaw. But maybe, just maybe, around you I can remember what it felt like to be a man, a decent human being. I leaned into his touch without thinking, drawn to him like a moth to a flame, and I felt him shudder, a tremor that ran through his entire body. Tell me to leave, Emma, he whispered, his voice hoarse with barely suppressed emotion. Tell me you want nothing to do with this world, and I'll go. I'll disappear. You'll never see me again except as a shadow, a silent guardian keeping you safe from harm. It was the out I needed, the escape route that would let me return to my small, struggling, normal life. The life I knew, the life I understood. But normal suddenly felt like drowning in slow motion, a suffocating existence devoid of passion, devoid of hope. What if I don't want you to leave? The words were out before I could fully process them. A dangerous admission. A leap of faith into the unknown. His eyes blazed, a fire igniting within their depths. Then God help us both, Emma Romano. The air between us turned electric, charged with unspoken desires, with dangerous possibilities. His thumb traced my cheekbone, his touch sending shivers down my spine, and I watched his carefully constructed control begin to fracture, the cracks widening with each passing moment. Emma, he murmured, my name sounding like a prayer and a warning all in one. If I kiss you right now, everything changes. There's no going back from that. No pretending this is anything other than what it is. No turning back, no second chances. And what is it, Dante? What is this thing between us? I asked, my voice trembling. Dangerous, he breathed, his forehead touching mine, his breath warm against my lips, consuming, inevitable. My hands found his chest, grasping at the fabric of his shirt, feeling his heartbeat racing under my palms, a primal rhythm that echoed my own. Proof that beneath all the ice and violence, he was human, vulnerable, real. Then kiss me, I whispered, the words barely audible, an invitation, a surrender. The words had barely left my mouth when his lips crashed against mine. His kiss anything but gentle. It wasn't soft or tentative or hesitant. It was hunger and desperation and months. Years of loneliness burning away in the space between our mouths. A wildfire consuming everything in its path. His hands tangled in my hair, angling my head as he deepened the kiss, and I melted into him with a sound that might have been a whimper, might have been a surrender, a complete and utter capitulation. He tasted like whiskey and danger and something darker I couldn't name, something primal and untamed, but knew I'd crave forever. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, our lungs burning, his eyes were wild, dilated with desire. I should tell you the truth, Emma, he said roughly, his voice hoarse. About who I am, what I've done. The blood on my hands, the darkness that consumes me. But I'm not going to. His grip on me tightened, possessive, desperate. Because if I tell you everything, Emma, you'll run. And I'm not strong enough to let you go, not even once, let alone twice. The confession should have terrified me, sent me running for the hills. Instead, it felt like the most honest thing anyone had ever said to me. a raw and unfiltered truth that resonated deep within my soul. "Then don't tell me yet," I whispered, reaching up to touch his face, my fingers tracing the sharp angles of his jaw. "Just stay, Dante. Just stay with me." Something like agony crossed his face, a brief flash of pain before he masked it, burying it deep. "You're going to break my heart, Emma Romano, or I'm going to break yours." "No," he said, his voice absolute, unwavering. "Whatever else happens, whatever truths come to light, I will never break your heart, Emma. That's a promise. I swear it." Before I could respond, his phone buzzed violently, shattering the fragile peace. Once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession, an urgent demand for his attention. He pulled it out and I watched all the warmth drain from his expression, his face hardening into a mask of cold calculation. "What is it?" I asked, my voice tight with apprehension. "There's been an incident at one of my warehouses." His jaw clenched, the muscle ticking. "Luca made his move. It's not just a threat anymore, Emma. It's war." Ice flooded my veins, turning my blood to slush. "My brother, is he safe?" "Your brother is already secure. My men have him. He's under guard." He was already moving towards the elevator, his entire demeanor shifting into something lethal, something terrifyingly efficient. "But I need to handle this now. I have to go." "I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not, Emma. It's too dangerous. You just said I'm part of this now, that I need to understand your world, that I should make an informed decision." I grabbed my bag, slinging it over my shoulder, my chin lifted in defiance. "So show me, Dante. Show me what your world is really like." He stared at me like I'd lost my mind, his eyes narrowed, assessing. "What I'm about to do isn't something you should see, Emma. It's not a place for someone like you." "Maybe not." I met his gaze head-on, refusing to back down. "But if we're doing this, if I'm choosing this, then I need to see all of you, Dante. Not just the man who kisses me in penthouses, the one who runs an empire, the one who protects me from the shadows. I need to see the whole picture, no matter how ugly it is." For a long moment, he just looked at me, his expression unreadable, weighing my words, judging my resolve. Then he pulled out his phone again, punching in a number. "Bring the car around and tell Marco to clear the east wing. I'm on my way." He ended the call, his eyes never leaving mine, his gaze intense and unwavering. "You sure about this, Emma? There's no turning back after tonight." No, I wasn't sure about anything except that turning back now, retreating into my safe, predictable life, would haunt me forever. "I'm sure," I said, the words firm, resolute. He nodded slowly, acknowledging my decision. "Then stay close to me, Emma. Do exactly what I say, no questions asked. And if I say run, you run. Understood?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "And Emma," he paused, his gaze searching mine, "what you're about to see, it's not pretty. There's no turning back from it. This is your last chance to stay innocent." I thought about Jake's photo, about the men with guns walking into the restaurant, about the way Dante had moved through violence like it was as natural as breathing. I'd stopped being innocent the moment I took his hand, the moment I let myself feel something for him. "I know," I said, my voice steady. His expression was unreadable as the elevator doors opened, revealing the sterile interior. "Then let's go, Emma." We stepped into the elevator together, and as the doors closed, I caught my reflection in the polished metal, a fleeting glimpse of a stranger staring back at me. I barely recognized the woman staring back, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and anticipation, her face pale but resolute. She looked like someone ready to burn her old life down, to embrace the chaos and darkness that awaited her. Maybe she was. The warehouse district at night looked like the end of the world, a desolate landscape of broken dreams and forgotten promises. Abandoned buildings loomed like tombstones against the black sky, their broken windows reflecting our headlights in fractured patterns, a distorted view of reality. The air smelled of rust and rain and something chemical, acrid, that made my eyes water and burned my throat. This was the city's skeleton, the parts tourists never saw, the underbelly where legitimate business ended, and Dante's empire thrived in the shadows, hidden from prying eyes. The car stopped in front of a massive structure, its exterior deliberately dilapidated, covered in graffiti and neglect to discourage curiosity. But I could see the subtle signs of security, the cameras hidden in the eaves, the reinforced doors, the faint hum of activity within. "Last chance, Emma?" Dante said quietly, his hand resting on the door handle. But he was looking at me with an intensity that felt like a physical touch, a palpable connection. "I can still take you back. No one would blame you." My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat. "No," I said, the word firm, unwavering. Something flickered in his eyes, a complex mixture of approval and regret. "Stay behind me, Emma. Don't speak unless I tell you to. And if I say run, you run. Don't hesitate. Understood?" I nodded, not trusting my voice to remain steady. We exited the car into the rain, the cold drops stinging my skin. Immediately, 3 men materialized from the shadows, silent and watchful. Dante's security detail moving with military precision. One of them produced a keycard and opened the warehouse door, and we stepped inside, leaving the desolate night behind. The interior was nothing like the exterior suggested, a stark contrast between appearance and reality. Clean concrete floors, industrial lighting, rows of shipping containers stacked with geometric precision. And men, dozens of them, all armed, all alert, all watching Dante with a mixture of respect and fear that made my skin prickle, a tangible aura of power. "Boss." A man approached, his voice deep and gravelly, his movements efficient. Tall and broad-shouldered, with a thick neck and a scar bisecting his left eyebrow. He looked like he could tear someone apart with his bare hands. "We contained the situation, boss. 3 casualties on their side. None on ours." "Luca's men?" Dante asked, his voice clipped, devoid of emotion. "Yes, sir. They hit the north entrance with a small team. Professional but sloppy. Like they wanted to be caught." Dante's jaw clenched, the muscle ticking. "A distraction. That's what Luca wanted." "That's what we thought, sir." So, we checked the manifests, cross-referenced everything. 1 container's been breached. I watched Dante's expression turn to granite, his face hardening into an impassive mask. "Which one?" "The pharmaceutical shipment from Romania, sir." Something dangerous flashed across Dante's face, a flicker of something dark and predatory. "Show me." We moved deeper into the warehouse, past row after row of identical containers, until we reached one with its door hanging open, a silent invitation. Inside, wooden crates sat in neat rows, secured with thick bands of metal, except for one corner where several had been pried open, their contents spilled carelessly across the floor. Medical supplies, vials of medication, syringes, bandages, scattered amongst the splintered wood. I blinked, confused. This was what merited armed guards and military-grade security. This was the target of Luca's attack. Basic medical equipment. Dante stepped cautiously into the container, his movements careful and controlled, his senses on high alert. He picked up one of the vials, held it to the light, examining it closely, then passed it to the scarred man. "Run it, Marco. Make sure nothing's been tampered with or switched out. I want to know exactly what they were after." "Yes, sir." The man disappeared with the vial, melting back into the shadows with practiced ease. Dante stood there staring at the scattered supplies, his hands clenched into fists, the tension radiating from him in palpable waves. "I don't understand," I said quietly, breaking the silence. "What's so valuable about medical supplies, Dante?" He was silent for so long I thought he wouldn't answer, lost in his own thoughts, battling demons I couldn't see. Then he turned to face me, and the expression on his face was raw enough to hurt, a vulnerability he rarely allowed to surface. "These aren't for sale, Emma," he said, his voice low and heavy. "They're donations. I don't make a single dime off of them." My breath caught, a sudden realization dawning on me. What do you mean?" "My mother died when I was 12, Emma. Cancer. We were poor." The words came out flat, emotionless, devoid of sentiment. The tone of someone who'd buried the pain so deep it couldn't surface anymore without causing irreparable damage. We had no money for treatment. She suffered for months because we couldn't afford basic pain medication. I watched her waste away, begging God for mercy that never came. Horror and sympathy flooded through me, a wave of understanding washing over me. Dante, I'm so sorry. After I built this empire, after I gained the power and the resources, I made a promise to myself. No one in my territory dies because they can't afford medicine, because they lack access to basic healthcare. Every month, I source and distribute pharmaceutical supplies to free clinics in the poorest neighborhoods, the ones the government has forgotten. No markup, no profit, just medicine for people who need it, people who are suffering. His smile was bitter, self-deprecating. The one decent thing I do, and Luca knows it. He's not trying to steal from me, Emma. He's trying to prove I'm not untouchable, that he can hurt the people I'm trying to help, that my compassion is a weakness. The warehouse, the security, the violence, the secrecy. Suddenly, it all made terrible, beautiful sense. This wasn't about drugs or weapons or power struggles. It was about protection, about a man trying to save others from the suffering he couldn't prevent in his own childhood. A desperate attempt to right the wrongs of the past. That's why you do this, I whispered, my voice filled with awe. The empire, the control, the violence. It's not about power, it's about protecting others. It's about helping those in need. Power is just the tool, Emma, he corrected, his gaze holding mine. He looked at me and I saw the boy he'd been, helpless and heartbroken, watching his mother die, unable to ease her pain. Everything I've built, every terrible thing I've done. It's all so I never have to watch someone I love suffer like that again. So that no one has to go through what my mother went through. My heart cracked open completely, the pieces falling away. This man, this supposed monster, was running a criminal enterprise to fund free healthcare for the poor, saving lives while simultaneously destroying others. The contradiction was dizzying, a paradox I couldn't quite reconcile. How many people know about this, Dante? About what you're really doing? My inner circle, Emma. The clinic staff, the doctors, the nurses. And now you. His gaze held mine unwavering. This is what I meant about truth, about seeing the whole picture. I'm not a good man, Emma. I've killed people, destroyed lives, built an empire on blood and fear. But I've also saved hundreds of lives, given people a chance they wouldn't have otherwise. So what does that make me, Emma? What does that make me in your eyes? Human? I said softly, the word filled with compassion and understanding. It makes you human, Dante. It makes you complex. He stared at me like I'd spoken a language he didn't understand, his brow furrowed in confusion. Then slowly, some of the tension left his shoulders, his posture relaxing slightly. Boss? The scarred man returned, his expression grim, his eyes filled with concern. The vials are clean, boss. Nothing's been tampered with, but we've got a problem. This wasn't about the medicine, it was about something else entirely. Dante's entire demeanor shifted, the brief moment of vulnerability vanishing, replaced by a hard, calculating intensity. Explain yourself, Marco. What did Luca really want? They planted a tracker, boss. Military grade, hidden in one of the crates. It's been transmitting for the past 6 hours, relaying information back to Luca. Ice flooded the warehouse, chilling me to the bone. Transmitting what, Marco? Everything, boss. Movement logs, personnel, delivery schedules, security protocols. Everything that happens in this warehouse. He paused, his voice dropping. And the location of your penthouse, boss. The tracker has been relaying the exact coordinates of your home. My blood turned to ice. My heart seized in my chest. Luca knew where Dante lived, where I had been tonight. Dante's face went blank, his expression devoid of all emotion, the kind of blank that preceded violence, the calm before the storm. Evacuate the building immediately. Full lockdown protocol. And get extra security to Miss Romano's brother. Double the detail. Now. The men scattered like a disturbed hive, moving with urgent precision, their every action purposeful and efficient. Dante grabbed my arm, his grip not rough, but firm, and started pulling me toward the exit, his face etched with concern. We need to leave now, Emma. We have to get out of here. What's happening, Dante? What's going on? Luca knows where I live, where I spend my time. He knows where you were tonight. His voice was still dangerously quiet. This whole thing, the break-in, the distraction, it was all a setup to plant the tracker, to find our vulnerabilities, to expose us. We burst through the warehouse doors into the rain, the wind whipping around us. The car was already running, doors open, engine purring, ready for a quick getaway. Get in, Emma, Dante shouted, his voice barely audible above the wind and the rain. I scrambled into the back seat, Dante sliding in beside me. The driver floored it before our doors even closed, the car lurching forward, tires squealing as we sped away from the warehouse. Where are we going, Dante? Where are you taking me? Somewhere safe, Emma. Somewhere Luca doesn't know about. A place he won't be able to find us. Dante pulled out his phone, barking orders in rapid succession, his voice sharp and commanding. Then he looked at me, his gaze intense and unwavering, and I saw something I hadn't seen before, something that made my heart clench with fear. Fear. Not for himself, but for me. I'm sorry, Emma, he said roughly, his voice filled with remorse. This is exactly what I was trying to protect you from. You didn't do anything wrong. I brought you into my world. I exposed you to this danger. I kissed you, Emma, and I let you matter to me. And now Luca knows you're my weakness, the one person I care about. You're a target. Before I could respond, his phone rang, the sound shrill and insistent. He answered, listened for 3 seconds, and went absolutely still, his face a mask of horror. I couldn't hear the response on the other end, but I watched the color drain from his face, his eyes widening in disbelief. Don't touch him, he said, his voice deadly quiet, the words laced with a barely suppressed rage. I'm on my way. Tell Luca that I'm coming. He ended the call abruptly and looked at me with an expression that made my heart stop, a look of utter devastation. What is it, Dante? What happened? I asked, my voice a strangled whisper. They have your brother, Emma. They took Jake. The world tilted sideways, the car swerving slightly. What? No, that's not possible. Not after everything. Luca's men grabbed him 20 minutes ago, Emma. Right out from under my security team. They bypassed my men, they made them look like amateurs. His jaw clenched hard enough to crack teeth, his hands forming fists at his sides. They're demanding a trade, Emma. They want you. My voice came out strangled, barely audible. What kind of trade, Dante? What are? He leaned forward, his intensity filling the car. Do you understand what Luca will do to you? This isn't some negotiation. He wants to hurt me, and the best way to do that is through you. Then you'll get me back. You have too much faith in me. Maybe you don't have enough faith in yourself. I grabbed his hand, forcing him to look at me. This is Jake we're talking about. My baby brother. The one who still calls me when he has nightmares. The one I've sacrificed everything for. I won't let him die because of me. Something agonized crossed Dante's face. And I can't let you walk into that knowing what they'll do. You don't get to make that choice. Yes, I do. His grip tightened on my hand. Because the second you stepped into my world, your safety became my responsibility, and I don't fail my responsibilities. The possessive certainty should have angered me. Instead, it made my heart ache with how desperately he meant it. Dante, I softened my voice. I know you want to protect me, but Jake is innocent. He doesn't deserve this. Neither do you. Maybe not, but I'm the one Luca wants. I swallowed hard. And if our positions were reversed, if it was someone you loved, wouldn't you do the same thing? He closed his eyes, and I watched him war with himself. When he opened them again, something had shifted. If I agree to this, he started. You're agreeing. If, he emphasized. I agree, then we do this my way with my plan. Following my orders exactly. The moment you deviate, the moment you make a decision without me, people die. Understood? Hope and terror warred in my chest. Understood. He pulled out his phone, made a call. Marco, assemble the team. Full tactical gear. I want snipers, surveillance, and extraction ready in 45 minutes. He paused. Yes, I'm serious. And get me blueprints of the maritime port. Every entrance, every sight line, every place someone could hide. He ended the call and turned to me, his expression carved from stone. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to wear a wire and a tracker. My men will be positioned around the entire port. You won't see them, but they'll see you. The moment Luca releases your brother, my team moves in. What if he doesn't release him? Then I kill everyone there and take you both back by force. He said it like he was discussing the weather. But Luca is smart. He knows if he harms either of you before the exchange, he loses his leverage. The car pulled into an underground garage, different from the penthouse, somewhere I didn't recognize. We emerged into what looked like a command center. Multiple screens lined the walls, showing security feeds from across the city. A dozen men in tactical gear were already assembling equipment with military efficiency. Marco approached, the scarred man from the warehouse. Boss, we've got the blueprints and satellite imagery. 3 possible extraction points, but they're all exposed. Then we make our own. Dante studied the screens, his mind clearly working through scenarios at lightning speed. What about waterside access? 2 boats minimum, but the approach is loud. Doesn't matter if they're expecting us anyway. He pointed to a section of the port. Position teams here, here, and here, overlapping fields of fire. No one moves until I give the signal. And if it goes sideways? Dante's smile was razor sharp. Then we remind Luca why people fear the Moretti name. Watching him work was mesmerizing. This wasn't the man who'd kissed me with desperate hunger or confessed his painful past. This was the apex predator, the strategist who'd built an empire from blood and will. And somehow that only made me want him more. A woman approached with equipment, small devices that looked innocuous but probably cost more than my car. Miss Romano, I need to wire you. 20 minutes later, I was outfitted with a transmitter hidden in my bra and a tracker sewn into my jacket hem. The woman, she'd introduced herself as Sophia, showed me how to trigger an emergency signal if needed. Just press here. She demonstrated on a button that looked like part of my jacket closure. The boss will hear everything, but this sends an immediate alert. Thank you. She met my eyes and I saw understanding there. He's never brought anyone into this. You must be special. Before I could respond, Dante called my name. I crossed to where he stood by the screens, his expression unreadable. Your brother is here. He pulled up footage showing Jake in what looked like a warehouse. He was bound to a chair but appeared unharmed. Relief flooded through me so intensely my knees went weak. He's okay, I breathed. For now. Dante's voice was gentle but firm. Emma, I need you to listen carefully. When you're out there, Luca is going to try to get in your head. He'll say things designed to break you, to make you doubt me. I won't. Let him. His hand cupped my face. Let him talk. The longer he's focused on you, the more time my team has to position. But don't believe a word he says. Whatever he tells you about me, whatever truths or lies he mixes together, remember this moment. Remember that I would burn the world down to get you back. My heart hammered. Dante, I'm not a good man, Emma, but I'm yours, and that means something. He kissed me then, hard and claiming and tinged with desperation. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. Come back to me, he whispered. I will. Promise me. Promise. The drive to the maritime port took 15 minutes. Dante sat beside me in rigid silence, his hand gripping mine so tightly it almost hurt. When we arrived at the designated location, a stretch of abandoned docks illuminated only by distant streetlights, he finally spoke. Remember the plan. Stay calm. Trust me. I do. His eyes searched mine like he was memorizing my face. Then he released my hand and opened the door. I stepped out into the cold night air, my heart thundering as I walked toward the pool of light where Luca waited. He stood casually, hands in his pockets, 3 armed men flanking him, and 20 feet behind him, Jake sat bound in a chair, a bruise darkening his cheek. Rage and fear collided in my chest. Emma Romano. Luca's voice carried across the distance. How noble of you to sacrifice yourself for family. I stopped at the edge of the light. Let him go and I'm yours. Oh, I don't think so. His smile was cruel. You see, Dante made a mistake bringing you into this. He showed weakness, and weakness must be punished. Ice flooded my veins. We had a deal. Deals change. He pulled out a gun, and my world stopped as he pointed it directly at Jake's head. Here's the new deal. You come here, kneel before me, and beg for your brother's life. Then maybe I'll consider letting one of you live. I heard Dante's voice in my earpiece, deadly calm. Don't move. I've got this. But Jake's terrified eyes met mine across the distance, and I knew there was no time for rescue. No perfect plan, only an impossible choice. Tick, Emma, Luca sang. What's it going to be? I took a step forward, and 3 red laser dots appeared on Luca's chest. His smile faltered. Dante's voice echoed across the port, amplified and absolute. Put the gun down, Luca, or find out how fast my snipers really are. Luca's hand tightened on his weapon. You're bluffing. Am I? One of Luca's men suddenly collapsed, a dart protruding from his neck. Then another, silently, efficiently, like dominoes falling. Luca spun, his face contorting with rage. You bastard! The gun. Now, for one crystalline moment, everything balanced on a knife's edge. Then Luca smiled, and my blood turned to ice. If I can't have her, he said softly, neither can you. He swung the gun toward me and pulled the trigger. The gunshot cracked through the night like thunder. I didn't feel pain, didn't feel anything except the sudden violent impact that sent me sprawling backward onto the concrete. My ears rang. The world tilted sideways. Distantly, I heard shouting, chaos erupting across the port like a dam breaking. Then Dante was there. He materialized out of the darkness, dropping to his knees beside me with a violence that spoke of panic barely contained. His hands were on me immediately, searching, pressing, his face drained of all color. Emma, look at me. His voice cracked on my name. Where are you hit? I tried to speak, but my lungs wouldn't cooperate. Tried to move, but my body felt disconnected from my brain. Through my blurred vision, I saw him rip open my jacket. His hands coming away clean, no blood. His eyes widened in disbelief. Then he looked past me, and I followed his gaze to see a bullet embedded in the concrete inches from my head. The shot had missed. Oh God! The words punched out of him like a prayer. He pulled me up and into his arms, crushing me against his chest with a force that drove the air from my lungs. Oh God, Emma! I felt him shaking. This man, who'd walked through violence without flinching, was trembling like a leaf. Around us, the situation had descended into controlled chaos. Dante's men had swarmed the location like shadows made flesh. Luca was face down on the ground, 3 guns trained on his head. His remaining men were being zip-tied and hauled away. And Jake, Emma. My brother's voice cut through the ringing in my ears. I twisted in Dante's arms to see him running toward us, freed from his restraints, Sophia steadying him with one hand. Dante released me reluctantly, and I stumbled toward Jake, meeting him halfway in a collision of relief and tears. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? I ran my hands over him, checking for injuries the way I'd done since he was a child. I'm fine. He grabbed my shoulders, his eyes wild. Emma, what the hell is going on? Who are these people? Why did that man try to shoot you? Over his shoulder, I saw Dante watching us with an expression I couldn't read. Pain, longing, resignation. It's complicated, I managed. Complicated? You almost died. Jake's voice rose. This isn't, you're not. He looked between me and Dante, and I watched understanding dawn. Oh my God, you're involved with him, aren't you? With the Mafia. The word hung in the air like an accusation. Jake, Miss Romano. Marco appeared at my elbow. We need to move. Police will be here in 10 minutes, and you don't want to be answering questions. She's not going anywhere until I understand what's happening. Jake's voice hardened in a way I'd never heard before. Emma has spent her entire life protecting me, sacrificing for me. I'm not leaving until I know she's safe. Your sister is under Mr. Moretti's protection, Marco said evenly. That makes her safer than 99% of this city. Protection? Jake's laugh was bitter. She almost got shot because of me. I grabbed Jake's arm, forcing him to look at me. This isn't on anyone but me. I chose to come here. I chose to trade myself for you, and I'd do it again. Why? Why would you? His voice broke. You were supposed to stay away from this world. That's what Dad made us promise before he died. Stay clean. Stay safe. The invocation of our father's memory hit like a physical blow. He died in crossfire between rival gangs when I was 16, collateral damage in someone else's war. It was why I'd worked so hard to give Jake a different life. And now I dragged him into the exact nightmare we'd sworn to avoid. I know, I whispered. I'm sorry. Dante approached slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. Your sister's safety is now my primary concern. I have resources, protection, and the will to use both. But I understand if you can't accept that. Jake looked at him, really looked, and I saw my brother assess this man who commanded violence like breathing. If anything happens to her because of you, I don't care how powerful you are. I'll find a way to make you pay. Instead of anger, something like respect flickered across Dante's face. I'd expect nothing less. The wail of sirens cut through the night, growing closer. We need to go now. Marco's urgency was palpable. Dante's hand found the small of my back. Come with me, both of you. I have a safe house where you can stay until this settles. I'm not, Jake started. Jake, please. I grabbed his hand. Trust me, just for tonight. My brother looked at me, at the desperation in my eyes, the truth I couldn't yet speak aloud, and slowly nodded. We moved as a unit back to the waiting vehicles. Dante kept me close, his body angled protectively, even as his men efficiently erased our presence from the scene. Within minutes, we were disappearing into the city's arterial roads. Jake sat rigid beside me in the back seat, his jaw tight. You love him. It wasn't a question. I barely know him, I said weakly. That's not what I asked. His eyes met mine, and I saw our father's stubbornness there. Do you love him? I looked at Dante in the front seat, his profile sharp against the passing streetlights. I thought about his trembling hands after the gunshot, the way he'd built an empire to save people from his mother's fate, the loneliness I recognized because it mirrored my own. I don't know, I admitted. But I feel something I've never felt before. Is it worth dying for? The question hit like a blade between my ribs. Before I could answer, Dante's phone rang. He answered, listened for 5 seconds, and his entire body went rigid. When his voice was lethal quiet, another pause. Lock it down. No one in or out. He ended the call and turned to look at me, and the expression on his face made my heart stop. What is it? I whispered. Luca wasn't working alone. His jaw clenched. There's someone else. Someone inside my organization feeding him information. Ice flooded through me. A traitor? Yes. And according to my sources, his eyes held mine, dark and devastating. They've been reporting on you specifically. Every move you make, every word you say. Why? Because whoever they are, they know exactly how much you mean to me. His voice dropped to something raw and dangerous. And they're planning something far worse than tonight. Jake's hand found mine in the darkness. Emma, what have you gotten us into? I didn't have an answer. All I knew was that somewhere in the shadows, someone was watching us, and they were waiting to strike. The safe house was a fortress disguised as a lakeside cottage. We arrived after midnight, exhaustion clinging to us like cobwebs. Jake was shown to a guest room by one of Dante's men, but not before pulling me aside. I'm trusting you, he said quietly. But Emma, if this gets worse, if you need out, I'll find a way. Okay. I hugged him tight, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne. I know. Get some sleep. After he disappeared upstairs, I found myself alone in the sprawling main room. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the dark water, and despite the danger circling us, there was something peaceful about the view. "You should rest." Dante's voice came from behind me, low and careful. I turned. He'd changed into dark jeans and a fitted black shirt, his hair still damp from a shower. Even exhausted and running on adrenaline, he was devastating. "I can't sleep. Not with everything." My voice caught. "Someone inside your organization wants to hurt me, wants to use me against you." "I know." He moved closer, his presence both comfort and danger. "I've already started investigating. Marco's running background checks on everyone who's had access to information about you." "How many people is that?" "Too many." Frustration tightened his jaw. "I've been careful, but the moment I started protecting you, asking questions, changing routines, people noticed, and someone with access reported back to Luca. I wrapped my arms around myself. This is because of me." "No." He closed the distance between us, his hands settling on my shoulders. "This is because someone in my organization is a traitor. That's on me, not you. But if we hadn't, if I hadn't, if you hadn't." "Hadn't what? Existed?" His grip tightened. "Emma, I've had enemies my entire life. Traitors come with the territory. But you're the first thing worth protecting in a very long time." The confession hung between us, raw and honest. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Not just for me, for Jake. For you." Something softened in his expression. "Come here." He pulled me against his chest, and I went willingly, my arms wrapping around his waist. His heartbeat was steady beneath my ear, a counterpoint to my racing pulse. "I won't let anyone hurt you," he murmured into my hair. "That's a promise." "You can't promise that. You're not invincible." "Maybe not, but I'm ruthless enough to make the attempt." He pulled back just enough to tilt my chin up, and "I have something to fight for now." The intensity in his eyes made my breath catch. "Dante, I know this is fast. I know it's insane, but from the moment you took my hand in that restaurant, something changed." I changed. His thumb traced my lower lip. "You make me want to be the man you see when you look at me. I see you exactly as you are. That's what terrifies me." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Because if you really knew everything I've done, every life I've taken, every choice I've made, you'd run. Try me." For a long moment he just looked at me. Then he stepped back, creating distance that felt like abandonment. "My father was a monster," he said finally. "He ran this organization before me, and he ruled through fear and brutality. When I was 17, he ordered me to kill a man who'd stolen from him. A father with 3 children. My heart clenched, but I stayed silent. I refused, said there had to be another way." His laugh was bitter. "So my father killed the man himself. Then he killed the man's wife. And he made me watch while he explained that mercy was weakness. That in our world, compassion got you killed. Dante, I took over when I was 22, staged a coup, removed him from power, and rebuilt everything from the ground up. But I learned his lesson." His eyes met mine, dark and haunted. "I became exactly what he wanted. Ruthless, merciless, the kind of man people fear to cross." "But you're not him," I said fiercely. "You distribute medicine to people who need it. You protect your territory. You have lines you won't cross." "Do I?" His smile was sad. "How many people do you think have died by my order, Emma? How much blood is on these hands?" I crossed back to him, taking those hands in mine. They were warm, strong, scarred from violence I couldn't imagine. "I don't know your past. Don't know every choice you've made." I looked up at him. "But I know the man who trembled when he thought I'd been shot. The man who's protecting my brother, even though it complicates everything. That's who you are now. And if that's not enough, it's enough for me." Something broke in his expression, control fracturing to reveal the raw need underneath. He kissed me then, desperate and claiming, like I was oxygen and he'd been drowning. I kissed him back with equal hunger, my fingers tangling in his hair as his hands spanned my waist, pulling me closer until there was no space between us. Emma, he breathed against my lips. If we do this, if we cross this line, there's no going back. I don't want to go back. His control snapped. He lifted me easily, my legs wrapping around his waist as he carried me toward the stairs. We kissed the entire way, breaking apart only when we reached a bedroom door. He set me down gently, his forehead pressed to mine. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. We barely made it through the door before his phone rang. Ignore it, I whispered. It rang again and again. Dante cursed, pulling it from his pocket. When he saw the caller ID, his expression went cold. It's Marco. He only calls on this line for emergencies. He answered. What? I watched his face drain of color as he listened. When? How long? A pause. Lock down everything. I'm coming now. He ended the call, and when he looked at me, I saw fear. What happened? His voice was hollow. Sophia, the woman who wired you earlier, she's been working for Luca since the beginning. Shock rippled through me. But she helped us. She played both sides, fed Luca information while maintaining her cover. His jaw clenched. Marco just found evidence. Encrypted communications, money transfers, everything. Horror dawned. The wire she gave me is compromised, which means Luca heard everything we said tonight. Every plan, every location. His hands balled into fists. He knows about this safe house. The words had barely left his mouth when the lights went out. Darkness swallowed us whole, broken only by moonlight through the windows. Dante moved instantly, pushing me behind him. Stay close. From downstairs, I heard the sound of breaking glass. Then footsteps, multiple sets, moving through the house with deadly purpose. Dante pulled a gun from somewhere. I hadn't even known he was armed, and his voice was barely audible. There's a panic room, east wall, behind the bookshelf. Take your brother and lock yourselves in. What about you? I'll buy you time. No. The footsteps were on the stairs now. Emma. He grabbed my face, kissed me hard and fast. I will find you. But right now you need to run, Dante. A figure appeared in the doorway, backlit by moonlight. Not one of Dante's men, Sophia. She held a gun pointed directly at us, her expression cold and professional. Hello, boss. Sorry it had to end this way. But she wasn't looking at Dante. She was looking at me. You're coming with me, Emma. Luca's waiting. Dante shifted, putting himself between us. Over my dead body. Sophia smiled. That can be arranged. Her finger tightened on the trigger. Everything happened in fractured seconds. Sophia's finger tightened on the trigger. Dante moved with lethal precision, his body becoming a shield between me and the bullet. But before either could complete their action, a voice cut through the darkness. Drop the weapon, Sophia. Marco emerged from the shadows behind her, his gun pressed against her spine. Two more of Dante's men materialized like ghosts, flanking her with practiced efficiency. Sophia's smile never wavered. You're too late, Marco. Luca's men are already surrounding the house. 20 of them. You have what? 5 guards here, maybe 6. She tilted her head, a gesture that conveyed her skepticism. The math doesn't work in your favor. Then, a chilling resolve hardened Dante's voice, laced with both ice and fury. Marco, secure her. Everyone else, defensive positions. No one gets to Emma or her brother. The men responded with the disciplined efficiency of a well-trained military unit. But despite their professional facade, I could see the stark reality etched on their faces. We were badly outnumbered, trapped with no apparent escape, and rapidly running out of time. I need to get to Jake, I said, my voice tight with urgency. Go, Dante commanded. Stay low. He gripped my arm, his eyes intense. And Emma, no matter what happens, you follow Marco's instructions. Understand? I could only nod, my throat constricted with fear, unable to produce a single word. He pressed a fleeting, desperate kiss to my lips, a kiss that tasted like goodbye, and then released me. I sprinted down the hallway toward Jake's room, my heart pounding against my ribs like a frantic drum. I burst through the door to find him already awake, standing by the window, his phone in hand. Emma, there are people outside. Men with guns. I know, he confirmed, his voice grim. We need to move now. His eyes widened, focusing on something behind me. I whirled around to see Marco standing in the doorway. This way, he urged. Panic rooms at the end of the hall. We followed him through the darkened corridor, the sounds of breaking glass and shouting growing louder with each step. Marco pressed a hidden panel in the bookshelf, and a reinforced steel door swung open, revealing the entrance to the panic room. Inside, there's water, communication equipment, and enough supplies to last for 3 days, Marco explained tersely. Don't open this door for anyone but me or the boss. What about Dante? The question escaped my lips, sounding strained and desperate. Marco's expression softened almost imperceptibly. He's doing what he does best. Surviving. Marco, inside now, he insisted, his tone leaving no room for argument. Jake grabbed my hand and pulled me through the doorway. The panic room was small but efficiently equipped with monitors displaying security feeds, reinforced walls, and a supply of medical equipment. The door sealed shut behind us with a hydraulic hiss that echoed like a tomb closing. Through the monitors, I watched a nightmare unfold in real time. Men in black tactical gear flooded the first floor like a dark, relentless tide. Dante's guards met them in brutal close-quarters combat, a desperate fight for survival. I saw Marco take down 2 men with ruthless efficiency, his movements precise and deadly. Then I witnessed one of Dante's men fall, a crimson stain blooming across his chest. And Dante, he moved through the chaos like death incarnate. Every movement precise, controlled, devastating. He disarmed one man, using his weapon against another, then disappeared into the darkness, only to reappear behind a third attacker, silencing him with brutal efficiency. But there were simply too many. For every man he dropped, 2 more seemed to appear, relentlessly pressing their attack. Oh God! Jake whispered beside me, his voice filled with terror. Emma, this is insane. We need to call the police. The police can't help us, I replied, my eyes glued to Dante's figure on the screen. This is beyond them. Then what do we do? I didn't have an answer. All I could do was watch helplessly as the the realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. I loved him. Somewhere between that first dance and this moment of sheer terror, between the ever-present danger and the undeniable desire, between his inherent darkness and his unexpected tenderness, I'd fallen completely and irrevocably in love with Dante Moretti. And now, I might lose him before I ever even got the chance to tell him. On the monitor, I watched Luca himself enter through the front door, flanked by 4 heavily armed guards. He surveyed the carnage around him with undisguised satisfaction. Then his gaze landed on Dante. Enough! Luca's voice boomed through the security feed. Stop, or I start executing your men one by one. Dante froze, his weapon still raised, his body tense. Blood streaked his face from a cut above his eyebrow, and his breathing was labored, but his eyes burned with a barely contained fury. What do you want, Luca? You know what I want, Luca replied, his voice dripping with malice. The girl. Give her to me and this all ends. Never? Dante spat out, his voice filled with defiance. Luca smiled, a cruel and predatory expression. I thought you'd say that. He gestured to one of his men who roughly dragged Marco forward. He was beaten, bloodied, but miraculously still alive. Luca pressed a gun to Marco's temple, the metal glinting ominously. Let me rephrase, Luca said, his voice cold and menacing. Give me Emma Romano or your oldest friend dies. You have 10 seconds. My heart stopped, the blood draining from my face. Don't do it, boss, Marco rasped through broken teeth. We've been through worse. Luca struck him across the face with the gun, the sound sickeningly loud. 9 seconds. Dante's expression was a mask of agony. I could see him calculating, weighing impossible choices, desperately trying to find a way out that simply didn't exist. 8 seconds. I couldn't watch Marco die for me. I couldn't bear to watch Dante make that impossible sacrifice. My hand moved toward the door release. Emma, no. Jake grabbed my arm, his eyes filled with fear. I have to, I replied, tears burning my eyes. I can't let him sacrifice everything for me. 7 seconds. If you go out there, you die, Jake said desperately, his grip tightening on my arm. Emma, please. I love him. The words broke free like a confession. I love him. And I can't watch him lose everything trying to save me. 6 seconds. I pulled away from Jake, my hand now firmly on the release mechanism. On the monitor, Dante's shoulders slumped in defeat, a sign of his inner turmoil. Wait, Emma! Jake's shout was desperate, but I was already opening the door, stepping out into the hallway, my voice carrying through the chaos-filled house. Stop! I yelled, my voice ringing out through the house. I'm here. The fighting ceased as abruptly as it had begun. Every head turned toward me, their faces a mixture of shock and disbelief. I walked down the stairs on shaking legs, my hands raised in a gesture of surrender. Dante's face went white as death when he saw me, his eyes filled with horror and disbelief. No, he breathed, his voice barely audible. Emma, no. Let Marco go, I said to Luca, my voice steadier than I felt. Let everyone go. You can have me. Luca's smile was triumphant, a clear indication that his plan was proceeding exactly as he had envisioned. Now that's more like it, he said, his voice laced with dark satisfaction. He shoved Marco away and gestured for me to approach. Come here, little bird. Emma, don't. Dante started forward, but 2 of Luca's men grabbed him, forcing him to his knees, effectively restraining him. I walked toward Luca, each step feeling like miles, each one a step closer to an uncertain fate. When I reached him, he grabbed my arm with bruising force, his grip tight and painful. You see, Moretti? Luca said, his voice dripping with condescension. This is what weakness looks like. He pressed his gun under my chin, forcing my head up, his touch rough and demeaning. You gave me the perfect weapon when you decided to care about something. Dante's eyes met mine across the room, and I saw everything there. Rage, fear, love, devastation. I'm sorry, I mouthed, hoping he understood the depth of my regret. How touching, Lucas sneered, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Now watch what happens when you cross me. He cocked the gun, the click echoing in the sudden silence. Then everything exploded into chaos as the windows shattered inward, showering the room with shards of glass. Smoke grenades flooded the room with thick, white fog, obscuring everything. Someone grabbed me from behind. Not Luca, but someone else, someone unexpected. Strong arms wrapped around my waist, pulling me backward through the swirling smoke. I've got you, a woman's voice said in my ear, the tone urgent and determined. It wasn't Sophia. It was someone new, someone I didn't recognize. Through the swirling smoke, I heard gunfire, shouting, the sounds of renewed close-quarters combat, and Dante's roar of fury, primal and desperate. Emma! I struggled against my captor, but she was too strong, her grip unyielding. We were moving through the house toward a back exit I hadn't even known existed. Stop fighting, the woman hissed, her voice tight with urgency. I'm trying to save your life. Who are you? I demanded, my voice trembling. Who are you working for? Her smile was sad, a hint of melancholy in her expression. The same person who's been protecting you since this started. The person who sent me to extract you before Luca could kill you. I don't understand, I said, my mind reeling. You will, she replied, her gaze distant. She looked out the window at the city lights blurring past. But first, there's someone you need to meet. Someone who can explain why Dante Moretti's enemies want you dead. My blood ran cold, a premonition of something terrible settling in my stomach. Why? She turned to face me, and in the faint light of the dashboard, I finally saw her features clearly. She looked exactly like me, a perfect mirror image. Same dark hair, same green eyes, same face. Because, she said quietly, her voice barely a whisper, I'm your sister and you, Emma Romano, are not who you think you are. The world tilted sideways, and I struggled to maintain my equilibrium. That's impossible. I choked out, my voice strangled. I don't have a sister. It's just me and Jake. The woman, my supposed sister, watched me with eyes that were indeed mirrors of my own, reflecting my shock and confusion. Your mother never told you, she said, her voice gentle but firm. She had good reasons. My mother would never. But even as I said it, doubt crept in, a seed of uncertainty planted in my mind. Mom had always been secretive about her past, about the years before Jake and I were born, about why we'd moved so often when I was young. My name is Isabella Romano, she said quietly, her voice filled with an unspoken sadness. I'm 28, 2 years older than you, and we share the same mother, but different fathers. The car wound through back streets, away from the chaos we'd left behind, the city lights blurring into streaks of color. My mind raced, struggling to process this impossible revelation while my heart screamed at me to go back for Dante, to fight for him, to protect him. Why now? I asked, my voice filled with a desperate urgency. Why tell me this now? Because Luca didn't want you to hurt Dante, Isabella explained, her expression grim. He wanted you because of who you are, because of what our mother hid from everyone, including you. I don't understand, I repeated, my mind spinning. Our mother, before she met your father, before she became the woman you know, she was involved with one of the most powerful crime families on the East Coast. The Constantines. The name sent a jolt of ice through my veins. Even I had heard of them. Their reputation was legendary. They made Dante's organization look like a street gang in comparison. That's not possible, I protested, shaking my head in disbelief. Mom hates violence. She made us promise to stay away from that world. I know, Isabella said, her smile bitter, because she escaped it barely. When she got pregnant with me, the Constantines wanted to use me as leverage to control her. So she ran, changed her name, started over. And you? I was born in hiding, raised by her grandmother while Mom tried to build a safe life. By the time she met your father and had you, she thought she'd successfully disappeared. Isabella paused, her gaze intense. But the Constantines never forget. And when they recently discovered she had other children, specifically a daughter no one knew about, they decided you were valuable. Valuable how? As a bargaining chip, as leverage against Dante Moretti, who's been encroaching on Constantine territory. Her eyes met mine, her expression filled with a deep sadness. They hired Luca to start a war with Dante to weaken him. And when they learned about you, about Dante's feelings for you, they saw an opportunity. My mind reeled, trying to grasp the enormity of the situation. So this entire thing, the restaurant, the threats, everything was orchestrated? Partially, Isabella confirmed. Luca had his own vendetta against Dante, but the Constantines have been pulling strings behind the scenes, funding his operation, feeding him intelligence. Isabella's jaw tightened, her expression hardening. They wanted you captured so they could trade you back to Dante in exchange for his territory, or kill you and destroy him emotionally. Either way, they win. And you? Where do you fit into this? I've been working inside their organization for 3 years undercover, building a case to bring them down from the inside. She pulled out a badge, the metal flashing in the dim light. FBI. I'm a federal agent, Emma. And when I learned they were targeting my sister, I had to act. The revelation was too much to absorb all at once. Sister, FBI agent, crime families, conspiracies that reached back decades. Does Mom know about any of this? No, I've kept her out of it to protect her. And Jake? Isabella's expression softened slightly. You're the only one who stumbled into this world on your own, and I couldn't let you die for it. My phone buzzed in my pocket, pulling me back to the present. I pulled it out with trembling hands. 23 missed calls from Dante. 17 text messages, each more desperate than the last. The most recent one sent 2 minutes ago. Emma, please tell me you're alive. I need to call him, I said, My voice choked with emotion. Not yet. We're being tracked. The Constantines have surveillance everywhere. The moment you make contact, they'll triangulate our location. Isabella made a turn onto a highway, the road stretching out before us. We need to get you somewhere completely secure first. Where are we going? A federal safe house. It's the only place they can't reach you. And Dante? Her expression was complicated. A mixture of concern and apprehension. He'll survive. Men like him always do. That's not an answer, Isabella? I snapped, my voice sharper than I intended. She sighed, her shoulders slumping slightly. I've read his file. I know what he is, what he's done. Are you sure he's worth risking everything for? I thought about Dante trembling when he thought I'd been shot, about his confession regarding the medicine distribution, about the loneliness in his eyes that mirrored my own, about the way he kissed me like I was the only light in his darkness. Yes, I said without hesitation, my voice filled with conviction. I'm sure. Isabella studied me for a long moment, her gaze penetrating. You really love him. I really do, I affirmed, my voice soft but unwavering. She was quiet as we drove, the city lights gradually giving way to darker, less populated roads. Finally, she spoke again, her voice low and serious. There might be a way to end this, to protect you, Dante, and bring down the Constantines all at once. Hope flared in my chest, a spark of light in the darkness. How? I have evidence, years of it, enough to prosecute every major player in their organization. But I need one more piece, proof of their involvement in ordering the hit on you. She glanced at me, her expression grim. And for that, I need bait. Understanding dawned, cold and clear. You need me to draw them out. It's dangerous, possibly suicidal, she admitted. But if it works, you'd be free, Dante would be free, and some very bad people would go to prison for life. What would I have to do? Let them think they've won, let them believe they have you. Her hands tightened on the steering wheel, her knuckles white. But this time you'd be wired, protected, and the moment they admit to ordering your death, federal agents move in. It was insane, reckless, exactly the kind of plan that got people killed. But it was also the only way forward, the only way I could see that didn't end with Dante and me looking over our shoulders for the rest of our lives. When? Tomorrow night. There's a Constantine family meeting. If we can get you there, get them to confess. She shook her head, her voice filled with a mix of determination and resignation. It's your choice, Emma. I can hide you forever if you want, but this way you get your life back. I looked at my phone, at Dante's desperate messages. I thought about Jake's frightened face, about my mother, who'd spent decades running from her past. Running hadn't saved her. It had just delayed the inevitable. I'll do it, I said, my voice firm despite the fear that gnawed at my insides. But on one condition. What's that? Dante needs to know. I won't have him thinking I'm dead or that I abandoned him. Isabella considered this, her brow furrowed. It's a security risk. It's non-negotiable, I insisted, my voice unwavering. She smiled slightly, a hint of amusement in her eyes. You really are my sister. Stubborn as hell. She handed me her phone, her expression softening. Make it quick. And Emma, don't tell him the plan. Just that you're safe and you'll contact him when you can. My hands shook as I dialed his number, my heart pounding in my chest. He answered before the first ring finished, his voice raw with emotion. Emma? His voice was destroyed, raw with emotion. Oh God. Emma. Where are you? Are you hurt? I'm okay. I'm safe. Tears streamed down my face, blurring my vision. Dante, I'm so sorry that. Don't apologize. He cut me off, his voice fierce. Don't you dare apologize. He sounded like he was barely holding himself together, his emotions raw and exposed. Just tell me where you are. I'll come get you right now. I can't. Not yet. But I promise this will be over soon. Emma, please. I love you. The words burst free, urgent and true. A confession I could no longer hold back. I need you to know that. Whatever happens, I love you. Silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. Then his voice, broken and filled with pain. "Don't say that like it's goodbye." "It's not goodbye," I reassured him, my voice trembling. "It's a promise." I closed my eyes, memorizing the sound of his voice, etching it into my memory. "Wait for me, Dante. Just wait for me. I'll wait forever if I have to," he vowed, his voice filled with unwavering devotion. Isabella gestured, her expression urgent. "Time to end the call." "I have to go, Emma," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "I love you," I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. Then I ended the call before I lost my courage, severing the connection that bound us. Isabella took the phone back, her expression filled with understanding. "That was brave. That was torture," I admitted, my voice raw. We drove in silence for another 20 minutes before pulling up to an unmarked building, its presence unassuming and discreet. Isabella led me inside through a series of security checkpoints and locked doors until we reached a room filled with monitors and sophisticated equipment. "This is it," she said, her voice resolute. "Tomorrow night we end this together." I looked at my reflection in a darkened monitor, my face pale and drawn, exhausted and terrified, but determined. Somewhere across the city, Dante was waiting for me, his fate intertwined with mine. And tomorrow I'd either free us both or die trying. 3 months later, the steps of the federal courthouse were crowded with reporters and cameras, all clamoring for a statement, eager to capture a piece of the story that had captivated the nation. But I walked past them without stopping, my hand firmly intertwined with Dante's, our connection a silent testament to the ordeal we had survived. The trial had taken weeks, each day filled with tension and uncertainty. Isabella's meticulous evidence, combined with the wire recording from that final, fateful confrontation, had brought down the Constantine family completely, shattering their empire and exposing their crimes. 17 arrests, federal charges, sentences that meant they would never again be able to threaten or harm anyone. Luca had taken a deal, 20 years in exchange for his testimony against his former employers, a betrayal that had sealed their fate. Sophia was serving 15, her ambition and loyalty ultimately leading to her downfall. And Dante, the federal prosecutor, had granted him immunity in exchange for his testimony and a promise to restructure his operations, dismantling the criminal elements and focusing on the legitimate businesses he'd built, as well as the medicine distribution that had always been his true purpose, his driving force. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, not by any means. He still had enemies, remnants of his past that lingered like shadows. He still had to look over his shoulder, to be vigilant and aware of the ever-present threats. But we were free, finally free from the constant fear and the looming danger that had defined our lives. "Ready?" he asked as we reached his car, his voice low and intimate. "For what?" His smile was devastating, a flash of warmth and tenderness that always took my breath away. "For normal, or as close to it as we're going to get." Jake waited in the back seat, now a participant in Dante's security training program. His own choice, a testament to his loyalty and resilience. Isabella sat in the front, having transitioned to a new assignment, her dedication unwavering, but still checking in weekly, her presence a comforting reminder of the bond we now shared. My strange, complicated, dangerous family, forged in the crucible of violence and betrayal, bound by love and loyalty. "I'm ready," I said, my voice filled with a quiet determination. Dante kissed me, soft and deep and full of promise. A kiss that spoke of hope and healing, of a future we could finally build together. When we broke apart, he whispered against my lips, his breath warm against my skin. "I told you I'd wait forever. You only had to wait 3 months. I teased, my voice light. "Felt like forever," he admitted, his eyes filled with a love that transcended words. I smiled against his mouth, my heart overflowing with happiness. "Let's go home." He helped me into the car, his touch gentle and possessive. As we drove away from the courthouse, from the cameras and the chaos and the past that had tried to destroy us, I looked at the man beside me, the Mafia boss who'd shown me that monsters could love, that darkness could hold light, that sometimes the most dangerous choice was also the right one. And I knew with absolute certainty that I'd make the same choice again, every single time, without hesitation or regret.